5 incredible life lessons from the Bhagavad Gita. Hello, my name is Sunny Sharma, and on this channel, we focus on studying and practicing the Bhagavad Gita teachings with great devotion. Today, I'd like to share with you 5 lessons I've learned from the Bhagavad Gita teachings. I'm going to try to share my experience with these. The Bhagavad Gita has been a monumental text in my life. So I have learned a lot more than 5 lessons. However, I will do my best to just share 5 of those with you today that I think are really important. Hopefully, hearing these will inspire you to pick up the Gita for yourself, or if you are already a reader of the Gita, hopefully it will inspire you to practice with even greater devotion. So the first lesson that I'd like to share with you that I learned from the Gita was work without attachment to the fruits of your labor. Work without selfish motive. I can tell you that before I encountered the teachings of the Gita, I was so entangled in expectations of what I wanted my work to do for me. I used to be in constant feeling of restlessness where everything I did, I was more focused on what that would eventually do for me or what benefit this work would provide me in the future if I keep doing it. In the Gita, Krishna tells us that this way of living is constant suffering. It is our attachment to our work and what outcome it must create in our future that creates our suffering. So this was such a big lesson for me because, I was in so many entrepreneur groups, in so many business groups, and I was trying to learn from them and be like them and work like them. I would notice a lot of people who were even very, very successful and made a lot of money. And one thing I would notice in them is that no matter what they achieved and no matter how much money they made, because they were so attached to the outcome of their work, no matter what level they got to, they were always still restless. They were always still in the chase, in the hunt. They never felt satisfied. They never felt fulfilled. And I found myself being like that too. I had the belief though that hey, I just don't have what they have yet. That's why it's okay that I'm feeling miserable. Once I achieve what they have, then I'll be satisfied. And that's the illusion we live in, right? Like once I have greater success, once I have more money, that's where I'll be satisfied and my misery will go away. My restlessness will go away. I'll finally be happy. But I started to observe these people who had everything that I wanted and more. And I would notice that they still had the same worries as me. They still had the same fears. They were equally, if not more, restless, constantly looking forward to what they can achieve next. And so I started to recognize, hey man, it's never enough. It's never enough. And as long as we keep working with selfish attachment, we will always feel unfulfilled. Reading this teaching sort of confirmed this observation that I was already sort of looking at, in life by looking at others and my peers and myself. So reading this teaching was a great confirmation for me. Although it didn't, click right away, I started to practice it. And through it, I've really come to see that the best work we can do, the best way to be in the world is do everything that is required of us. Whether you are responsible for raising a family, you're providing for others, you have work responsibilities, you have daily duties that you have to tend to. I found the best way to be is doing all of these things and doing everything we are even inspired to do, creating that work of art, starting that new business, but doing it all from the point of view of the Gita, where we work and we're totally surrendered. We work, but we do not worry about the fruits of our action, when they will come, how they will come, if they will come. Always just staying open to whatever God puts in our path, whatever God gives us, being happy with that, being satisfied with that, and then just continuing to work in the way we feel is best. So, that's the best part about this teaching. It does not tell you that, oh, you shouldn't pursue your goals. You shouldn't create something new. You shouldn't do work. You shouldn't handle your responsibilities. It says, do all of those things without selfish attachment. That the cause of your suffering is not what you don't yet have, right? It's not what you are lacking in life that is creating your suffering. It is because you are attached every step of the way to what each of your actions must do for you. We are so attached to what outcome I must achieve through this action and what outcome I must avoid at all cost by this action. Krishna guides us, be free of this anticipation, work without attachment. So little by little, we can start infusing this into our day, right? So, every video I make, every thing I write, every opportunity I pursue, I do my best to do it without attachment. And I find myself in the world of entrepreneurship and business, and I don't conduct it in a way that would be generally conventional, or maybe we would, if I were to do it another way, even if I was to be more profitable, I still wouldn't trade the way I go about my work, because even if I was more profitable, but I was attached, I know I would have zero satisfaction, zero happiness. Whereas the way the Gita teaches us, no matter what ends up happening, we are able to find contentment in that. Whether you achieve your goals or don't, you can find contentment in that. I feel I have achieved many things in the past few years. Some things that I wanted to, some things that I never even thought about. But have been countless other things that I wanted to achieve and have not. A certain plan I had for life, and then I thought my actions would get me there, and I have not achieved any of those things. But I find the greatest satisfaction in life, the greatest happiness in life, is being content with what God gives us. In this, we start to find blessings everywhere. We just continue on doing our work, and we continue to be happy with whatever God gives us. It's a simple way of life. It's a way of life that doesn't make sense to the mind that hears it first time or first few times. But once you start to experience it, you can never go back to your old way of being. Now let's move on to the second lesson of today's 5 lessons. I kind of rambled on the first one, so it went a little longer than I thought I would, but I hope that was helpful too. The second lesson that I loved and learned from the Gita was Krishna's advice to Arjuna. When he speaks to Arjuna, he's speaking to us because we are Arjuna, the spiritual seeker seeking advice from Krishna. Krishna tells us, Arjuna, keep an even mind throughout all of the dualities of life, through pleasure and pain, through the good and the bad, the up and the down, success and the failure. He tells us, those who are wise are not deluded by these changes. They are not swept away by good fortune, and they are not put down by bad fortune. They keep an even mind throughout all the changes of life, knowing that everything happens according to its own karma. Knowing this, we keep an evenness of mind. We live in total acceptance of what comes and what goes. Once again, resorting to my experience, before I encountered this teaching, I was constantly running after the good and running away from the bad. That's actually how my spiritual journey started. It was just to avoid or to run away from the pain I was experiencing, the suffering I was experiencing. And I just wanted to eternalize pleasure. If you really observe your mind's activity, you will start to notice that the mind just wants eternal bliss. It wants an experience where there are no more problems, no more limitation, no more suffering, no lack, endlessly. Nobody does anything that you don't like. The world never goes through anything you don't agree with. It's madness. So, this is the mind under whose hypnosis we are. We are just constantly under those impressions, always just chasing the good, avoiding the bad. You feel one negative emotion, you start to think like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. This shouldn't happen to me. We experience one inconvenience outside. We think this experience shouldn't be happening to me. Or someone says something that you don't like. We say, this person shouldn't have said this to me. Notice how the ego is so prideful. If he really feels like the world revolves around me and that everything should just go the way I want. And until it does, I will keep chasing that restlessly, endlessly, no matter what cost. That's how we sort of live our life if you really dissect it. It is endless suffering. So you see, Krishna in throughout the Gita is pointing at the root of our suffering. All these little things we believe and the way we are, like we create our own suffering. So Krishna guides us. Arjuna, when things are not going well, be calm, be aware, accept, allow. Don't give in to restlessness, worry, anxiety, fear. Turn inward, focus on the self within, be present. He also tells us when things are going well, don't attach yourself, don't cling, don't identify with even that. It's all changing seasons. In a recent video that I uploaded, one of the main things we talked about was to observe impermanence in all things. So Krishna tells us the impermanent has no reality. Reality lies in the eternal. So we are to observe the comings and goings of all life situations, of all seasons. We are to observe even the changingness of our own body, our own mind, thought, and emotion. And in the midst of all of this, we keep an even eye. We stay as the self which is unchangingly aware. This makes our life in the world a lot simpler. For me, it has allowed me so much to be more grounded, more centered, even when things are personally threatened. Maybe there are some personal problems going on that I don't know how they're going to turn out in relationships, or maybe some money issues, and I don't know what's going to happen next month, if I'll be okay, or work wise, where maybe things aren't going as well. I'm not doing what I like, working in the way that I want, or I'm not getting the results that I thought I should be getting. Relaxing my attachment and all of these things and just observing the phases of life come and go. Sometimes up, sometimes down. Sometimes I'm doing great, sometimes I'm not. Letting this flux of good and bad, all of these dualities of life, letting them be, not battling against them, not resisting them, not making life anymore just a endless chase to the good and an avoidance of the bad. Letting the good and bad flow in equal harmony without letting them sweep away my sense of well-being, my contentment. Our contentment we source only from God within. Of course, living in this way is not as easy as we talk about it as, which is why we've created a brand new Bhagavad Gita study group, which is associated with this channel. So if you think it would help you to connect with other devotees of the Gita, of Krishna, other devotees who are doing their best to practice the teachings of the Gita in their day-to-day life, I invite you to join our study group. in the description box below. The third lesson, which I also consider to be one of the most important lessons from the Gita that I received, is make self realization the highest goal of your life. I really think that only when we make self realization the highest goal in our life are we able to really be receptive to the other lessons that we are talking about today. Only then are we really able to practice these teachings with great devotion. In the Gita, Krishna tells us that Arjuna, this life that has appeared before you is not your main abode. This is a transient appearance and it will pass, but you will not pass. Krishna tells us that our main goal in this lifetime is the dissolving of our karma through yoga, through the practice of yoga. We are to go through this life not just focused on what good experiences can I get in this life, because they are all transient. We are to go through this life not just focused on how can I personally gain, make myself greater and greater. It's not for the grandization of the ego. We are to go through this life like we are walking through a test or a journey of self-realization. For me, this was so profound because once I started to look at life not as like, oh, my personal story, my world, my life, and what I can hope to achieve and do in it. When I started to look at my life as my quest for self-realization, everything changed. Spiritual practice became so much simpler because when previously I was just focused in me and my life and what I want and what I can achieve, every time something wouldn't go my way or I would encounter a difficult experience or a relationship issue, I would lose myself. Because, when we are focused in the world, we are just so attached to the world. Only when now our greatest priority shifts to self-realization, to the pursuit of God, truth, self. Now, when things in the world don't go our way, we are able to be okay, because we are rooted in something much greater. Our quest is not just circumstantial, what happens in life. It is far greater. So when we are focused on something far greater, then relatively all things become easier. And then one thing else I noticed is that when I made self-realization my main goal, and I saw my entire life as a journey in pursuit of that goal, then my work, my relationships, my personal life, my health issues, everything I experienced in those areas of life became an avenue where I can practice the teachings. And I feel that only through the practice of these teachings in all of our life areas are we able to really grow in the understanding of them. So I encourage you to test this out. Every morning, make it a commitment where you see the day that is about to unfold before you. It is your journey for self-realization. Don't just only focus on, oh, what do I have to do today? What's happening at work? What am I going to do for fun? What am I going to eat? These are all only relatively important. The sum of all of these activities is zero, ultimately, So we do not prioritize these things above everything else. We prioritize self-realization above everything else, and then let all the things that do happen become like a river that flows to that. I like to say that all experience is a river that flows to truth, to God. Once we make self-realization our greatest goal, the main purpose of our life, everything serves that purpose. The fourth lesson that I want to share with you, which really piggybacks on the third lesson, when we make self-realization the highest priority in life, now we are to see God in everything. We are to see God in everything and everyone. Every experience that happens, see it as God in form. Make everything you do an offering to God. All of your actions you devote to God. all the practice you do, all the effort you make, all the work you are doing, whether at home or in your to your family or at work, everything you do, relatively you're doing it for people and things, but ultimately you make it an offering to God. And only in God you find your security. So the fourth lesson is really make everything about God and see God in the unfoldment of your entire life. I like to look at the entire appearance of this person and this world as God appearing to be this. God, Krishna is that eternal reality appearing as impermanent form. In the Gita, Krishna tells us, right, that he is everything. He is anything and everything. And he says, only the ignorant fail to see beyond the surface to my true nature. So, yes, Krishna's true nature, our true nature is not form, but we are to see form as God's manifestation, as God's creation. When we do this, I found then that you could even look at your enemy with compassion. You can look at your problem with understanding and acceptance. You can look at your own pain with peace. So it's just something that has really brought beauty, um, a sense of connectedness, a truthfulness, and authenticity to my journey. Along with that, no matter how uncertain life is at times, because you see God in everything, you rely solely on God for your safety. God is your only safety, your only security, your only stability. I have a board over there, and I have Krishna's simple quote written on there to remind me of this all the time. Krishna says in the Gita, Arjuna, depend on me completely. Just that simple little quote, depend on me completely. We think that our security lies in our money, in our health, in our relationships, in our occupation, in our possessions, in our home structure, in our country, our government. All of these things are unstable. Throughout your lifetime, you have seen all of these things fail you one time or another. Krishna tells us, depend on me completely. Not even your own mental intelligence will serve you as much. It will also fail you. So it's just a beautiful reminder. Whenever I read that, at least once a day, it's just a beautiful reminder to just surrender to God completely, surrender all my worries, all my concerns. I just do what is needed of me day by day, moment by moment, and I leave the rest to God. God is my only security, my only stability, and I do my best to live by that, practice that. When we practice this in the toughest of times, I found those to be the most fruitful. That's where we grow more and more in the recognition of the presence of God within, which brings us to the final lesson. See God as the self of all beings. God is present in each and every one of us as the self. Krishna says, I am the self of all beings, Arjuna. I am present in everyone. And so this I found very revealing because I was already on the path of self-inquiry, where we are always inquiring into the self. Who am I? Who am I? And initially you begin this journey, this inquiry as a person, but you start to discover that your true nature is not personal. You start to find God present within you. You begin to find the self as your very own self. So I loved in the Gita, Krishna saying, I am the self of all beings. This allows us instant, call it connection or submerging in God. It's like you become empty of who you think you are and you enter into that kingdom. So King Krishna tells us, Arjuna, still your mind, practice meditation, turn inward, practice not just going endlessly with the restless mind, pulling you in each direction. Control your mind, control your senses, turn inward, and you will find me present within you. This is, to me, the foundation of our spiritual journey, where every single day we sit, we close our eyes, and we turn to the presence of Krishna within us. In order to do so, you have to let go of thoughts about who you are, what life is, what you want, what you don't want. It's almost like to know Krishna's presence, we have to drop everything about ourselves and we ground our attention in the presence within. Meditation is an instant communion with God. That's how I see it. And I also see it in a way where we should trust this presence more than we trust the content of our thinking. So, for example, thoughts are just arising and saying all sorts of things about future, about past, interpreting our current circumstance, worrying, desiring, instead of just going with the content of these thoughts and just automatically believing in this as myself, as it's real, we keep turning inward to the presence, which is even more real than these thoughts, the presence which sees these thoughts come and go, because that is the presence of God. And that is our true source of intelligence. That is the source of all answers to all questions. So instead of just remaining thinking about spiritual matters, what this means or that means, when will I get there, you let go of all that thought activity and you just keep turning inward to the presence of God within you, to the presence of Krishna within you. And this begins to take over your entire spiritual journey. That's how I like to see it. It also really helps to connect us. On the surface level, we are so different and we are so separate. But what I feel as the self here is what you feel as the self there. Krishna is present as the self in both of us. It is Krishna who is present, who is aware of what you are hearing right now. So this helps us to connect on a much deeper level. Whereas previously, where we only saw differences, now we are seeing the same reality present through you, through me, through everybody else, through all beings. It's a beautiful way to live life. So these are the 5 main lessons that completely changed my life and continue to transform everything. Let me know which lesson was your favorite in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, add Jai Shri Krishna to your comment. Again, if you think it would be helpful for you to study with us in our study group, I invite you to join. We do weekly meetings there. We have our Bhagavad Gita course there where I break down every chapter step by step, give a whole explanation. We have a wonderful conversation going there. So I invite you to join. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helped you. See you next time.